Okay, so when you think of Italy, what comes to mind? You're probably picturing the Colosseum, amazing pasta, maybe some sun-drenched vineyards, right? But what if I told you that hidden away in its meadows and forests is one of Europe's greatest and most devious natural treasures? And no, we're not talking about truffles. We're talking about wild orchids.
So, let's dive right in, shall we? Because beyond all those famous landscapes, there's this whole other world of just astonishing biodiversity. And it's all centered on a flower that has totally mastered the art of trickery and survival. Trust me, this flower has some incredible stories to tell.
And look, we're not just talking about a handful of rare flowers here and there. Italy is a major hotspot for wild orchids in Europe. I mean, depending on who you ask and how they classify them, experts have found anywhere from 100 to over 230 different species and subspecies across the country. That's an incredible amount of diversity, and we're going to explore it.
To really get a handle on this hidden world, we're going to go on a little journey. We're going to follow a single year in the life of Italy's orchids, season by season, to see who shows up to the party and when.
Now, you might think our journey would start in the warmth of spring, but you'd be wrong. It actually begins in the cold of late winter, with the very first, very brave pioneers that dare to face the elements.
So, meet our first character. And this one is a true titan. It's the giant orchid, Himantoglossum robertiana. This thing doesn't wait around for spring. No way. It can burst into bloom as early as January or February down in the south of Italy. Just this bold splash of life in an otherwise sleepy winter landscape.
And it really, truly lives up to its name. This plant can shoot up to 80 centimeters tall, with this thick, kind of purplish stem that's topped by a dense cluster of flowers, sometimes as many as 60 of them. And hey, fun fact, you might have seen it under its old scientific name, Barlea robertiana, but, modern science confirmed its rightful place among the giants.
Okay, so as winter finally starts to fade, that's when the real drama begins. Spring is, without a doubt, the peak season for orchids in Italy. It's a time of explosive color, for sure, but way more fascinating, it's a time of incredible evolutionary genius that's built on a foundation of pure, unadulterated deception.
We have now officially entered the Great Explosion. From about April to June, meadows all across the country, but especially in the south, just come alive. It's a breathtaking variety of orchids, and every single one is competing for attention in its own very unique way.
At the very heart of this springtime show is the genus Ophrys, which you might know as the bee orchids. And let me tell you, these aren't just pretty faces, they are master manipulators. These are plants that have evolved to trick insects into doing their bidding, and in the most intimate way you can imagine. So, how do they do it? Well, it's this wild strategy called pseudocopulation, and it's exactly what it sounds like, false mating. See, the orchid doesn't offer any nectar, no reward at all. Instead, it offers a lie. It literally pretends to be a female insect, luring in some poor, hopeful male for a date that is never, ever gonna happen. And this just shows how incredibly complex the whole deception is. It's basically a multi-sensory attack. So first, the orchid releases this chemical perfume that is a perfect copy of a very specific female insect's sex pheromones. Then its fuzzy patterned lip looks and feels just like the female's body. The poor male is completely fooled, and as he tries to, mate with the flower, he either picks up a packet of pollen or drops one off from the last time he got tricked. It's just an absolute evolutionary masterpiece.
Now, if you want to see this incredible evolutionary theater in person, there is one place in Italy that stands head and shoulders above all the rest: the Gargano Peninsula. The spur on Italy's boot. This relatively small area is considered a global epicenter for orchid diversity. It's unreal.
And this slide right here really shows you why Gargano is so special. The whole area is in the province of Foggia, which is highlighted. Get this, it's home to 94% of all the orchid genera, and by genera, I mean the major family groups of orchids, found in the entire Puglia region. Now, to put that into perspective, Puglia itself has the highest orchid biodiversity in all of Italy. So the concentration of different types right here is just staggering.
But hey, the story doesn't end just because the spring meadows start to dry up. Oh no. As summer arrives, the orchid world doesn't disappear. It just retreats. It moves into the cool, quiet shadows of the forests, where a completely different kind of orchid life begins to unfold. We've now moved into the third act of our year. From July all the way through October, the show goes on. The bright, sunny meadows of spring give way to the dappled light of beech woods and mountain forests. And it's here that you have to look a little bit harder to find the new stars of the show.
So, to really understand these summer orchids, you have to know about their secret partners. You see, all orchids rely on soil fungi to get started in life, but some of them have taken this relationship to an absolute extreme. They practice something called mycoheterotrophy. Basically, it means they've given up on sunlight and photosynthesis altogether. Instead, they live as parasites, stealing all their food from the fungal networks in the soil.
And this strange lifestyle creates what I like to call the ghost orchids. Since they don't need chlorophyll to make their own food, they aren't green. The bird's nest orchid, for instance, is this pale brownish-yellow color, so it just blends right into the leaf litter. And the violet limidor is this really striking purple stalk. These are plants living a completely different kind of life, down there on the dark forest floor. And so our year of flowers finally comes to a close with this little delicate beauty. Blooming in September and October, the autumn lady's tresses sends up this slender stalk with a perfect spiral of tiny, fragrant white flowers. It's like a final, elegant farewell before the deep sleep of winter returns. But these flowers are so much more than just biological wonders. They have this deep, centuries-long relationship with Italian culture. And it's a history that has shaped both their mythology and, tragically, some of the very real threats that they face today.
This old medical idea is really the key to understanding the orchid's cultural history. A lot of species in the genus Orchis have these twin underground tubers that, well, they look a lot like testicles. In fact, the Greek word orchis literally means testicle. So because of this doctrine of signatures, people believe that these tubers could cure infertility and act as a powerful aphrodisiac.
But this belief, which stuck around for centuries, came at a truly terrible price for the orchids. The huge demand for their so-called magical tubers led to a widespread and completely unsustainable harvest. That harvest fueled the trade of something called salep, which is a flower made from dried and ground orchid tubers. The big problem here? To get the tubers, you have to dig up and kill the entire plant. For orchids, which grow so slowly, this was basically a death sentence. The trade in salep just decimated populations across Europe, and today it is very rightly banned under international conservation law to protect the wild orchids that are left. And the threats? Well, they haven't gone away. Today, the biggest dangers are habitat loss from farming, but also, weirdly enough, the abandonment of old pastures. That allows forests to grow and swallow up the sunny meadows that so many orchids need. You add climate change to that, which messes up the delicate timing between a flower and its pollinator, and the fact that people still illegally collect them, and yeah, their future looks pretty fragile.
So we're left with this thought. These incredible plants have spent millions of years evolving some of the most complex, most brilliant survival strategies in the entire natural world. They are masters of adaptation and deception. The question now is whether we can evolve our own strategies of conservation, of care, quickly enough to make sure that these absolutely irreplaceable jewels of the Italian countryside are still here for generations to come.